What page?
41.
41. Okay.
Yeah, the bottom paragraph. It's a good thing nobody's giving us a test on our recall, huh? Well, no one sent me a text saying, what's the site? So I guess we can start. I'm going to start by reading the paragraph before the one we're going to start on, just to kind of orient us a little bit. What happens when the endless creator has absorbed all its interior invocants? No one knows, but it provides some relief while it lasts. There have been other creations which eventually were absorbed back into the endless creator, and then it started all over again with the same events, the same cast of characters. Nothing has ever changed about the creation itself, nor the outcome, but the subjective experience of passage has produced a kind of evolution of the being of the absolute. IJS, we're bottom of page 41, last paragraph, bottom of the page. Sandy, you want to take it from there, and we'll let Bartiman get caught up, and then we'll keep going around.
Sure. We may think of the Creator as some exalted being who sits around and plans the creation. How jolly it is all going to be. But it is not at all like that. A child, in the sense that the Absolute has never grown to adulthood and is now essentially the same as it will always be, except for the possible change which might be brought about by the work. A child who floats without protection in pure, cold, totally empty space, naked and raw, open to the endless void, faced with the fact of the unchanging, never-ending eternity, and involuntarily crucified to a creation which, at least in its form, will also never change. And I'll pass.
Thank you. Hi, Bernie. We're on page 42.
I see. Thank you. I'll do it here.
I didn't hear
Well,
you.
yes, I have the book. Do you want me to read?
If you're ready, yeah.
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
We are here in this world only because above us and below us are the non-phenomenal and the phenomenal worlds. Death and rebirth forming a connecting passage from the moment of death to the moment of birth. When we have made these two worlds into one unified world, in much the same way as a community may choose to combine all its educational facilities into one single unified school district, we have entered the kingdom. But how do we unify these two worlds? This question became my temporary centrum of gravity for many years, not for myself, but on behalf of others. to whom any attainments of mine would have been useless, unless they also understood and could apply the causal factors to themselves. I pass.
Thank you. Jayesh.
I found out that let me give this again. I found out that by extending consciousness into both worlds at once through the method of awakening the machine, the two did in fact somehow become one. In a sense, I exchanged an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a life for a life. But then, how was I to communicate this accidental discovery to others for their own transformation? The process of transformation results in life in both worlds at once. Now you have information but without application. It would be just another isolated fragment of information collected by your perpetually busy little brain. Our goal could be said to be the awakening of the machine for the purpose of the transformation of the being by the machine, the result of which is life in both worlds at once, which is the price we pay to be able to return the hospitality of the Absolute. These vital pondering question is the basis for the highest possible personal sacrifice, the sacrifice of one's life to the work, which question could be formulated as how exactly can I return the hospitality of the Absolute? This question already shows the formation of the beginning of real conscience and a partial understanding of the dilemma of the Absolute, upon whom rests the entire burden of the eternal presence of the involuntary creation, which forms the world within which we live. And I pass.
Well, I'd like to pause for a moment because we just read a page and a half, which has probably enough content for, a couple of degrees in divinity and philosophy and, abstract sciences. What do we make of these paragraphs? Does this resonate? Does it make sense? Is it disturbing? What's the take on what we're reading? Remember, it says we and I.
Can I try to say something?
Yeah.
Well, it made me think of the idea of after death, there's that life which might be the pure essential self life, maybe, I don't know, and then you got your ordinary life, which mostly has a lot of machine and those kinds of things, and somehow you're trying to live in both worlds at the same time by having unified something or other.
I like your specificness. Thank you. Yes. We can carry on. Tom?
Okay. Sorry. The Son of Man is the non-manifested presence of the soul. just as the absolute is the non-manifested presence of the megalocosmos. The planet Earth is the sun of soul, SOL, which is to say, the solar sun, which forms the centrum of gravity of our solar system. And man is the son of the planet, which is to say, the son of the solar sun. And maybe I'll just stop there. I'm having trouble with the line, the planet Earth is the son of soul. Okay, which is to say the soul. Wow. And the soul is the solar sun. Okay, I think I got it now. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Pat.
Yeah. Nishant? Are you reading today, Nishant? Okay, next round. Bartleman.
Sorry, I got lost again.
You're on paragraph 4, page 43, that starts with the spirit.
The spirit can exist only because man exists, because man is the reflection of the spirit. This might be confusing because in ordinary life, we use the terms spirit and soul more or less interchangeably, although they refer to very different ideas. Everything is formed of spirit, but we must also remember that even pure spirit is a form of matter, although a much higher and more refined matter than organic matter. And I'll pass.
And I'll have us read it again, please. Please.
The spirit can exist only because man exists, because man is the reflection of the spirit. This might be confusing because in ordinary life, we use the terms spirit and soul more or less interchangeably, although they refer to very different ideas. Everything is formed of spirit. But we must also remember that even pure spirit is a form of matter, although a much higher and more refined matter than organic matter.
Thank you. But while everything is formed of spirit, not everything has a soul, because a soul is formed only within a machine which is awake, and not only awake, but also engaged consciously in the transformational process. Organic man does not have a soul because organic man does not have the necessary will to awaken his machine, nor would he wish to if he could. A soul can only be produced from the transformation of spirit under the laws of the work, which are compassion, duty, and voluntary crucifixion for the sake of the absolute. for whom these 3 nails by which we assume the cross are meaningless. Oh boy. I got to go back to the beginning of the sentence, sorry. A soul can only be produced from the transformation of spirit under the laws of the work, which are compassion, duty, and voluntary crucifixion for the sake of the absolute, for whom these 3 nails by which we assume the cross are meaningless, especially voluntary crucifixion, since the crucifixion of the absolute is completely involuntary, because the creation, which forms the cross for the absolute, is completely involuntary. Well, that is a sentence of which I have never comprehended, nor do I now. Anybody have any take on this?
I was going to say that the paragraph at the bottom of 43, I wrote in the margin quite a long time ago, question mark, question mark, question mark. So I'm kind of lost there. But yeah, the one that you mentioned, sorry.
That's okay. The distinction between spirit and soul are the place where I have to start, and I can't get very far along. I'm going to assume we might get a little bit more understanding if we keep reading. Is that okay with everyone? Okay, Sandy, you want to take it?
Spirit, passing through the transforming factor, which we call man, slowly, over a long period of time during which the machine is awake, and only during those periods can the transformational process take place, becomes a soul. Ordinary man is a transformer of energies, but real man can transform the being, which is the same thing as saying to polish the diamond. If we choose eternal return for the purpose of perfecting our beings, and as a result of the ensuing radiations, voluntarily take our rightful places on the cross, we deserve the pity of the Absolute, which we can call the descent of grace, an objective enabling factor which makes it possible to work in the work and not just for the work, because we have taken upon ourselves some small part of the suffering of the Absolute by our own voluntary ascension onto the cross. Pass.
Thank you. Bernie.
Suffering absolute is not pain. This idea, if taken as a centrum of deep contemplation, not just for an hour or two, but for several months, while at the same time trying to penetrate sensations, higher emotions, and perceptions of the man on the cross, of course not only during serious vigil before an image of the man on the cross for the purpose of concentrating our fullest possible attention, can lead to a complete understanding of what it means to be really alone, all one. Man suffers mechanically from something that happened or did not happen. The Absolute suffers just because in a moment of panic, which according to His Majesty is a higher emotion of the most exalted kind, the creation sprang from nothingness, and now He is helplessly crucified upon it, nailed down solid as it were. The Absolute is all one, eternally sensing the agony of eternity, and there is no one else out there. Outside help will never come. If He is to help Himself, He must find the means within Himself. At the same time, He knows that this world is not real, just clouds floating in the empty sanctuary. I noted in the line, Meister Eckhart, I believe. I think so.
Yes.
So I pass.
Yeah, no, that's good. It's relevant. It is relevant. Yeah. Okay. Do we want to continue, or does anybody want to kind of go back and chew on something? I mean, verbally aloud with others, not what we're all doing internally. Okay, I'm taking that we're quiet and that we wish to continue the reading for the moment. Jayesh?
The endless absolute produces the sense of sensation in order to make the creation sufficiently real to be able to descend from the cross in order to ask man for help. Sensation in this sense is the father of subjective reality. How is the physical world to be experienced if not with sensation? Sensation is an intermediate step to an imaginary descent from the cross into the phenomenal world. At the point of entry into the creation, the Absolute cannot determine objectively exactly when and how the subjective impression of creation will end. The Absolute has only one real ability: to create the creation, but only involuntarily, as a natural function of his being. If at any time he takes direct action, by which I mean some real change in the course of events, a new creation exactly the same as the previous creation, with the same cast of characters and the same events and imaginary history and future history, takes the place of the previous creation. And I pass.
Thank you. Tom?
So which page are we on?
Top of page 46, paragraph beginning, in other words.
In other words, he can turn the volume up or down, change the stations, make it brighter or darker, more or less intense, but he can never ever turn it off permanently, because even when it is turned off, it snaps back on again in the blink of an eye. If we were the Absolute, and for one reason or another wished to return to the phenomenal world, we could ask ourselves, how can I ascend the cross? To reverse this, we could use the urge to descend from the cross. Pass.
Does that make sense to anybody?
No, I don't quite understand it.
No. Sort of.
So we're the absolute, and we want to go back to the phenomenal world. The phenomenal world is accessed by ascending the cross. If we want to get out of the phenomenal world, we descend from the cross.
I thought that the absolute is on the cross.
That's what I thought.
No.
It seems like a kind of contradiction or dilemma. But anyway, let's go on. Maybe we can see it more clearly at the end of the chapter.
Yeah, the contradictions are multiple and they're layered.
Mhm.
And I know it's not a mind game. You know, it is a path of I'm not going to say reasoning or logic, but it is a step-by-step pathway. But like this little paragraph here is an example. If we were the absolute and we want to return to the phenomenal world, so it's stating that we're not in the phenomenal world at that time, then we say, how can I ascend the cross? Because that would put me in the phenomenal world. But then if we want to get off the cross, or we want to get out of the phenomenal world, so we descend, which to me makes no sense at all, because I see descending from the cross as returning to the phenomenal world. So I'm totally confused.
I've heard some right or wise men or given the chance, let's say, to give way to the uncertainty of not knowing for a while, and keeping that sensation there. No, not. I don't understand. Okay, you can go on without being totally knowledgeable. No, so that could be, in that case, literature could be not factual, but let's say moving. No, who knows? I don't know.
Yes, I'm with you there.
So as we are talking about cross, right?
Yes.
So, and in the absolute term, so what is the event of Christ going on the cross and for the crucifixion signifies in that terms?
That's exactly the question. If the understanding, which we get from the Christian terminology, says that Christ went on the cross to save us, to redeem us, to make a pathway between human and God, that kind of transitional thing. It's a transactional thing. You know, God.
That's from phenomenal to the God world, let's say, assume.
Yeah.
And this is the total opposite of kind of, or I don't know, it is opposite or outside those two worlds, it is Another layer is being added.
The classic explanation of Christianity, or not I don't mean Catholic, but Christianity is he came for the redemption. He made that for the redemption, and
Yes.
redemption in that meaning, I believe, has to do pay the debts. You pay the debts, and there is some truth there, that something happened there, and in the Christianity, it is said that he came to pay the debts of humanity. So he liberated humanity from sin. I don't know. I was born in that lineage, but I didn't buy it also. But I think there is some truth there underlying, no? Not to laugh about.
Yeah,
By
yeah.
sin, Bernie, do you mean karma?
Probably. I don't know. Many sages talk about some kind of sin, not sin in the Christian that we have. You made sexual offense or that kind of. I don't know. I don't want to give too much talk about it because
Sorry, I don't mean to confuse upon this aspect. I'm just asking in a symbolic form of crucifixion and the Christ. If we take an example as let's say Christ is an absolute example.
And the problem with posing that question, JS, is that almost all of us have some kind of personal connection with that terminology, either from just culturally living in the culture we live in and reading the text that we read when we're growing up as children, or because we had, family that were participants in church. I heard from Baptists that the reason that Jesus was on the cross was to take the sins of all. That was it. He was the Redeemer. I heard from Methodists that the reason that Christ was on the cross was so there could be a relationship between those who were at this point human and those that are divine.
Yeah. So I'm not talking from the religious perspective. I don't have a background of Christianity, neither any background on the crucifixion world, neither or all of that, right?
Yeah. So what do you
Perhaps, perhaps, maybe past life or something related. Get good.
Yeah. What do you make of this paragraph then without our overlay?
So then the absolute and the relation with the Christ is only I'm trying to relate upon the crucifixion on the cross.
Well, the word cross.
The word what, Patty? Sorry, say that again.
The word cross in this chapter, as I read it today, I see as being not necessarily related to Christ. I see it as being the cross is an experience of the absolute. And that's on page 44, the top of the paragraph. It says a soul can only be produced from the transformation of spirit under the laws of the work, which are compassion, duty, and voluntary crucifixion, for the sake of the absolute, for whom these three nails by which we assume the cross. So what I'm getting from that language is that it is in relation to, I can't think of the correct word, but there's a word that says the situation of the absolute. And we're being asked to pretend for the moment if we were the absolute and we wish to return to the phenomenal world, one means of doing that, you know, a method of transportation could be to ask, how can I ascend the cross? That's a technique, if I read the sentence correctly, that is a technique of the absolute being able to return to the phenomenal world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yes.
It does to me.
Mm.
It does to me now.
Woo.
It's like the cross is the phenomenal world.
Yeah.
Where you're getting the crap beat out of you. But I also want to comment, folks here have spoken a lot about crucifixion, and I haven't seen that word the whole time we've been reading today. I don't know if that makes any sense, if that evokes anything for anyone.
Yeah, it was, we started on page 41, right? We started on the bottom of page 41. And if you read the section that I just was referring to, the paragraph on page 44 that says, the soul can only be produced from the transformation of spirit under the laws of work, which are compassion, duty, and voluntary crucifixion.
I see it.
Yeah.
I see it.
Yeah, so it is one of the elements: compassion, duty, and voluntary crucifixion.
I stand corrected.
No, that's okay. It's because somebody had a different way of saying crucifixion, and it made me pay attention. So I was really happy that it had kind of struck me, so I would remember it. Yes, well, if we were the absolute, and for one reason or another wish to return to the phenomenal world, we could ask ourselves, how can I ascend the cross? And to reverse this, we could use the urge to descend from the cross. In the beginning, when monasteries were first founded in this world, several centuries before the time of the Egyptian Empire, this 3 centrum, and I'm not going to go back and find out what that refers to, this 3 centrum contemplation on the cross through the keeping of the vigil was introduced. But after a while, as in all things, it was reduced to the usual sophomoric mental trash and sentimental syrup, and the means for ascent and descent of Jacob's ladder were quickly lost. And if I had any biblical history, I could remember what Jacob's ladder was, but at the moment I don't.
Are the 3 centrums not head, tail, and emotional or moving?
That would be the human form, right? I don't think that is what was referenced on this other page here.
I think it will come when the prayer absolute will start appearing. So yeah.
Well, it will make sense when we get to the last page.
Or not.
You're reading ahead, are you, Tom?
No.
Hey, that's cheating.
I'm just using the same joke that everybody has been using. No?
Oh, right.
Oh. Yeah.
Sandy, would you like to read?
Starting at higher forces? Yeah. Higher forces acting upon man have some possibility of changing reality. Man is a potential catalyst for the alteration of the being of the Absolute, by which, although the creation cannot be permanently uncreated, the Absolute may yet find some peace in coexistence. And I'll pass.
Ernie.
Yes. The Absolute, acting through man, has only the smallest ability to change the situation, and then only in its being, which is itself, not the exterior reality of the creation. Living in artificial harmony, a lifestyle in which we hold ourselves aloof from selfful disturbances, only prolongs the illusion that one is not alone. Sensations of pain are very different from sensations of suffering. Sensing the suffering of the Absolute by three centrums identification with the man on the cross is a good method of prayer absolute, if one can really sense what it means to be on the cross, not just for an hour or a day, or even a very long time, but forever with no hope of release. If the Absolute had been completely seduced into total immersion in the phenomenal world, there would be no possibility of awakening and transformation. I make a note, no, not a note, but I make, yes, some kind of, when you use your pencil to mark, no? Living in artificial harmony, a lifestyle in which we hold ourselves aloof from stressful disturbances, only prolongs the illusion that one is not alone. That is very strong, no?
Yeah.
We tend to
Your speaker went off. You said we tend to escape, and
yes, we tend to escape disturbing situations, but also I find very interesting, sensation of pain are very different from sensation of suffering, and it comes to my mind that pain is, of course, you feel pain, your body feels pains, and you look for ways of reducing the pain. But suffering has to do, I sometimes think that suffering comes from the resistance to pain. Do you get my point, what I mean? When you resist your pain, you add to the pain the suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean that in the everyday, also in the everyday phenomenal world, no?
Yeah.
Pain, and you don't want the pain, so you add to the pain the suffering. And it looks to me that the suffering has to do something more mental, no? Anyway, that is my my exploration.
Yeah. I think it's more complete than just physical. I think that's how I would put it. Like pain is, I usually experience pain as being a physical phenomenon. Whereas when I would say, I'm suffering over this, or I feel suffering about it, it's not a physical sensation, but I still feel it, but not with my body. Does that make sense? The thing with this paragraph, with this whole book, the thing with this particular paragraph is that for me, The descriptions are not stated specifically. They're left for you to decipher, every single one of them. So you have this puzzle to unravel. Sensations of pain, sensations of suffering, suffering of the absolute. 3, centrum identification. All of these phrases, these are enormous concepts that we may or may not have, you know, familiarity, personal familiarity with. And so to try and leap into the paragraph, which is what I usually try and do, is I try and dive in and see where I end up. I can't even approach it in some ways because there's so much that I get hung up on. I get hung up on little bits and then I can't get all of it. Did you guys know what I'm saying?
Yes, I love your diving into. I had such a vision of that, just diving in and just like sinking to the bottom.
Whoa, Bernie, did you dive in? Bernie, are you?
No, yes.
Okay, good.
I was going to make some tea. Sorry. I'll be back.
Good.
I was wondering or thinking that maybe it's better to do this in a group, and because like trying to make sense of it just by oneself is, well, in my case is well, it's useful. I don't know that.
That's a good thing we're not grading ourselves, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to read the whole chapter again next time. It'll be after EJ's birthday. It'll be a new year. Between this time and that time, I would like all of us to make an effort to get a handle on something in this chapter, anything, any bit of it that you can work with, you know. After we all say goodbye this evening, let's stay behind. Okay. Yeah, okay, I'll do that. Any bit of this, it's all in present tense and what do you call it? We, plural. It's not singular. When we, it's, you know, second paragraph starts when we, and then you, and then I, and stuff like that. So it's very, it could be very personal. We could make it really personal, and that would be helpful, I think, to exchange what we come up with. Is that okay with folks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is a question posted, so we can try that technique. How can I ascend the cross? Depending upon your situation, you can descend.
Yes. that is one answer to it, isn't it? Yeah. Interesting. I didn't read it that way. You guys know where I was on page 46, that second paragraph? How can I ascend the cross? We could use the urge to descend. That's a nice example. Thank you. So the other question for me about this text is, if normally when I read one of EJ's books, the chapters link and I kind of move along like, you know, in a generally the same kind of path. This book for me is like all over the place. And so I don't have a continuity with it. I'm not holding what the other chapters had when I go into this chapter. And because I think it's deliberately written that way. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be like that. I'm just saying that's my experience of it. So because it's, as it says in the very first page on the preface, it says this book is a technical manual. And so another thing that I would like us to do at some point, or you can start doing it now, is to go back and review the chapters for each of us individually. What does it have in it that I got, or that I use, or that makes sense? And make yourself, it doesn't have to be a whole journal, but I mean, like, collect some of this material, and we'll make a little booklet and we'll share it at the end. Everybody will get a copy. Okay?
Great. Thank you.
Can you repeat that, Patricia? Sorry.
I'm going to suggest that we start now, or we can wait till we've finished reading the whole text, but we personally take a look at each of the chapters and for ourselves make sense of whatever we make sense of, what we use or what we understand or how it fits or whatever, and that we share those so that we put together a little manual that has from each of us. We don't have to identify ourselves, it doesn't matter. We have a compilation of what we have gotten from this. Because for me, it's one of the most dense pieces of his writing that I have worked with. And, there have been some doozies, but this one is still at the top.
And about how much text or pages or paragraphs are you looking for to?
Whatever works. It's not, there's no criteria,
Okay.
Great.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Oh, absolutely.
200 to 500 pages will do it.
And that's only for part one, right?
Well, I didn't say anything about the graphs or the diagrams. That's optional. But, the Kabbalistic hierarchy of beings on page 33, I think is just too good to let pass unattended to.
Well, those graphs, that's rocket science, Patricia.
I know. It's just somebody's got a lot of this understanding, and I'm just looking at the pictures right now.
We could ask also the AI to answer the question of the periodical table of angels on page 165. What about? Please translate it for us animals. Wow.
An
That could be
experience.
groovy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So in that chapter, there is a the Kabbalistic hierarchy of beings, and underneath there is, what is that? Is that a French word?
Yeah, I think so. I believe that the name Lefebvre is the title of some either theory or understanding, and that it was in an era in which there was an individual named Pico della Mirandola. But I haven't checked any of that with Google, so I'm just making it up. I have not checked it.
I believe he was a monk.
That Pico della Mirandola is a monk?
Yes, I believe it's a Christian monk from the Middle Ages.
Okay.
I'm not sure, but I sense sometimes I read something about it.
Good.
So,
So this is the kind of data we share with each other, and we'll make a record of it for us, you know, to have. Does that help, Jayesh?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know how, but I have.
I think
It's
a
a
good
puzzle,
idea.
right? So let's solve it if we could.
Well, there are scientific charts, and they have, you know, the table of elements on them. You're familiar with this, yeah?
Yeah, yeah. Those these are the actually I read and I forgot. But the what is on that some church there on the above there is a picture of angels and all kind of something like
Mm.
the hierarchy, right? The circle going all around. So that's this is the kind of uh,
We're at a loss for words, right?
exactly.
Yeah. That's what this chapter of this book does. It takes away your facility with your ready available answers in your brain and your experience, and leaves you going and yeah.
Patty,
Yeah.
two things because we are finishing the hour.
Okay.
In regards the feeling of uncertainty and the not finishing to understand whatever. Two things. There is an interesting saying that many times come to my mind because it's very paradoxical, and I will say it as best as I remember. A broken sword. No, sorry. A solved problem is to the mind as a broken sword in the battle. It's very, very challenging, this kind of advice or whatever it is. But I relate it to something that in the ordinary life happens, and I've seen some masters addressing that subject. When the magus or the wizard makes the passing of magic, mostly when we are children, we have a feeling of wonderment. And that feeling of wonderment, if the magus or the magician shows the trick, we lose that wonderment. With this, I mean it's an exploration. Sorry, I don't think that is what I'm. But with this, I mean that some texts could help us to be in a state of wonderment, because the rational mind wants to know the answer, and when he knows the answer, that's it. It passes to another state. No.
Yeah.
So I think that again the idea of that a problem solved is to the mind like a broken sword in the battlefield has some sense in a way, because we are now baffled with all this information, but we can live with it. We can see a state of wonderment, and it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I wanted to share.
I appreciate that. Yes. It's I think the technology that we have, that we share this space in, is a wonderment, even though I'm not real happy with all of the things that I don't know how to use in the new technologies. I still appreciate that we have the option for contributing in a shared manner. And I'm very, very grateful for for our time, and especially to try and put our time into text with, I always thought the hidden work was going to be about what was hidden. Never occurred to me that it was going to be about what was not hidden. And that's, the more I read of this book, the more it is, oh, yeah.
Good point.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yes.
Great to share the journey. Unraveling. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Happy whatever you're celebrating this holiday season to all, and I'll see you in 2 weeks.
I'm celebrating the hidden work.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Adios.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks all.
Thank you,
That was a
Patty.
good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Yes.